Hey guys, and welcome back. So today it's just going to be a quick update. I want to talk about HIVE. Again, this is one of the Bitcoin miners that we follow. So we do have this news here. We see that they've added 1 exahash per week for the last month, which is a really big increase in hash rate. They were previously at about 6 exahash, so getting above 10 in the span of a month is nothing to really, ignore. This is a big move. We've talked previously about their growth plans to head to that 25 exahash target. So we're going to look here. Let's take a look at a couple things. I want to flip over here. What we can see is essentially kind of a breakdown that they've passed that 10 exahash hash rate target. They're ahead of schedule on their way to that 25 exahash target for Q4 2025. They were originally trying to get to 11.5 exahash by the end of June, which they're going to be able to easily surpass, in my opinion. We also see that their HPC business has achieved a $20 million annual run rate, also ahead of schedule. So really good job here from HIVE, both increasing their hash rate and increasing their annual run rate on their HPC business. Interesting as well, we also saw this use of their Bitcoin treasury. So they pledged Bitcoin essentially at a price of 87,000 US per Bitcoin. They also secured an option to repurchase the equivalent amount of Bitcoin at the same price. So this tells me it's more of a rotating line of credit kind of deal where they put up Bitcoin as collateral, they borrowed this cash, and they're able to rebuy that Bitcoin at the same price at a future date. So a very interesting deal. They were able to not only take advantage of their substantial Bitcoin treasury to really raise that liquidity, they also secured that option to repurchase that Bitcoin at the same price. If they exercise that option today, they would already have a gain on the asset because the price has grown. It's up to about 109,000 US or 108,000. So I really like the structure of this deal. It allows them the opportunity, in a worst case scenario where the market kind of dumps and goes down, it kind of gives them that safety. They're able to take advantage of that treasury and build their business. So I really want to see these Bitcoin miners scaling their operations as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So we've seen HIVE do that here, and again targeting that 25 exahash target by the end of the year. That is massive growth. That's 4 times the hash rate from the start of the year. Last time we saw a company do this was CleanSpark or Iris Energy, and share price really pumped around then. CleanSpark went on to outperform for the majority of 2022-2023, and Iris Energy went on a crazy run from about $3 all the way up to $15 when that happened. So we're flipping over to HIVE here, taking a look at the charts on the lower time frame here on the daily. We're looking all right. We are stuck under resistance. So we can see here we've got our bull market support band moving averages. We are above the 50-day moving average. We're above the VRVP point of control. So that is ideal. We've broken this downtrend here, and we were trending up on the daily. That being said, we've run into resistance here, and also when we flip to our WGMI, this is the Bitcoin miners as a whole. Look at that. We're also just this nice run. We broke the downtrend, but we need to come back and retest these higher levels of support. When we flip to our weekly charts, we're still quite extended. That's why I say we always want to have that confirmation on the weekly chart. So we need to wait and see. We want to see this trend reestablish itself and then hopefully go on that next leg to the upside. But we're flipping back to HIVE, and we can see here on the very high time frame, kind of similar to the last cycle, what we saw is this trend line here that acted as support, through here in this dead cat bounce, and then acted as resistance all through here. We were eventually able to break out, but ultimately this first breakout was not the actual lows of the cycle. So it could be, we are in a similar potential pattern here. We're stuck under this trend line that acted as support, resistance, resistance and resistance. So we're stuck under a few levels of resistance, but look at that historical support that we're currently sitting in. So this support level here, dating back multiple cycles, all the way back to 2017 cycle here, when HIVE first debuted as a Bitcoin miner. So very interesting that we are kind of getting some similarities. When we take a look at the indicators, we do see that the bearish trend is slowing down. It's losing momentum, but it is still the dominant trend. So although the bearish trend is losing momentum, it's still the dominant trend here as per the Vortex indicator, but losing a little bit of momentum. So we want to see that continue. When we look at the daily, same thing. We got a little bit of a bullish move breaking out of this downtrend that did get us back above that 50-day moving average after tagging this high time frame accumulation zone. So we also see here, though, there is the potential for that bearish trend to continue and pick up. We need to watch for that. That's what I say when we look at the weekly charts. All of these are pretty extended, just straight up. We need to hold these lows. So if price comes back down, holds the lows, resets our indicators on the multi-time frame setup, so our 4-hour, our 1 day, and our 1 week all looking a little bit better, then we can look at potentially taking a position. But right now, the multi-time frame setup is showing bearish likely price action on the low time frame and kind of neutral to more bearish favored price action on the higher time frame. We're seeing WGMI here dumping out a little bit. So kind of just, again, I'm waiting patiently. Let's take a look at our Fibonacci levels on the weekly, see what could be a potential area that might offer some support. We'll see. We take that Fibonacci tool retracement here, pull it from the low to the high, and we see our 618 Fibonacci coming in at about $1.62 on down to our 786 at about $1.50. So if we're going to get a bounce in Bitcoin miners and another leg up or another continued trend up, I think that bounce needs to come in around here in this zone. That's going to be the most probable for an area of bounce, and we'll see that's going to be a potential swing trade. We can put a stop loss underneath here, but HIVE is a very interesting one right now, just because of this massive growth they're targeting this year. But we have to also be aware, if Bitcoin breaks down or the stock market breaks down, it's going to take these assets down with them. These are risky assets. They're leveraged proxies on top of Bitcoin. So you think of these, HIVE their market cap is a few $100 million or about $400 or $500 million. So when you look at them in terms of, let's say, an altcoin, they're not even making the top 50 list, despite the fact that they've got actual revenues, they've got actual strong fundamentals. They're essential to the backbone of the Bitcoin network. That's kind of why I like Bitcoin miners, is because there is that use case, there is the fundamentals, and there is a traditionally audited way to evaluate these companies. So they have earnings, they have balance sheets. All of this stuff is audited by traditional financial standards. There's a lot more clarity, so we're able to value these companies a little bit better. To me, HIVE looks really undervalued, but again, we need to have the trend on our side as well. So we're going to wait for that higher low potential to hold. If it breaks below, then the next thing we're going to have to do is just take a look. We have a little bit of support down in through here. We can see right through there, as well as the prior bear market low. So we do have that opportunity. If it breaks down, it could keep continuing to the downside. That's why we don't really buy into these trends. We wait for that new trend to establish itself. Similar to what I said with WGMI, it's a lot more evident on this chart. You can see the macro uptrend that we had in miners. This is what I was trading, those Fibonacci retracements. So we had 2 to 3x pump, Fibonacci retracement, 2 to 3x pump, Fib retracement, and same thing that happened 6 times throughout the cycle in this uptrend, but we maintained the uptrend the entire time. We broke this uptrend, we're now back testing it, and looks like we're rejecting from the underside. This is actually bearish price action, so we need to hold these lows. Watch these lows, make sure they're holding, make sure the multi-time frame setups are supporting these trades or these assets. HIVE, definitely one I would consider going forward. Just with that explosive growth, their consistency across multiple cycles, their experience, their valuation, it all is just kind of presenting a good opportunity if the market is going to continue on another leg. So that's going to be the key. We aren't really sure. It's hard to say, you know, hindsight is always 20/20, but right now we're more extended, we're into resistance, we're not chasing. Wait for those higher low entries, wait for the setup on the multi time frame, and then